what I am saying makes sense. All right, so we'll make a start. First thing I just wanted to do, thanks Hazel, no problem. First thing I'm going to do is try and put that back on again. There we are. It's just to look at the last meeting, the minutes from the last meeting. There are a couple of things, sort of action points, in terms of professional coach things to do, which was obviously to make sure that you were au fait with the content of the item, and to make sure that obviously the ITAP activities that happen in your school are high quality. We also would like you to support, obviously, in enabling the learning coaches to access any training that we are putting on and offering for them, whether that be the tier 1 mentor training that all of our mentors have done now, or whether it be the curriculum briefings to watch, or whether it be the subject specific meetings that we offer as well once a term. And also just to make sure that if you haven't already, can you just tick your roles and responsibilities on the online platform? I haven't been through and checked it. It's one of those jobs that just gets put to the bottom of the pile. But yeah, so that's there just to confirm that you know what you're here for, and also that you've observed each associate teacher that's been on placement with you during the last placement, and that you arranged that for this term as well, so that you've seen them at least once. And also, if you had any associate teachers last term, just to make sure that you tick the box on their experience review just before Christmas to say that you'd read it and confirmed that they are performing in the way that the learning coach says that they are. Does anybody have any questions about any of those things? Okay, I've just noticed this mug says Baileys on it. It's not full of Baileys, it's full of tea. Just so you know. All right, so we're going to look at mentor training first and just give you an update about that. I'm sure a lot of you will know that the government about a month ago decided they were going to relax the mentor training requirements for 20 hours. Everybody breathed a sigh of relief across the sector. We've obviously, as you know, we've done a huge amount of work across the West Midlands IT partnership in steering the content of that, particularly and how that was going to be structured. What we want to do now is make sure that we don't lose any of that good work that we did, but also be mindful of the workload and the impact that it has on learning coaches in schools. So we've kind of done two things. The first thing we've done is we've removed the tier 2 element completely. So that means there'll be no bespoke diagnostics to complete sets of NASBIT modules online. That's saved quite a bit of money and time in terms of coordinating and logging all of that. But we've decided that we do want to keep that one day of training for new learning coaches. And the reason why is because of how palpable the impact of it has been. When you talk to learning coaches that have received it, we've had some wonderful emails from people saying it's the best CPD they've ever been to, how it's really changed their practice when it comes to mentorship. So we're thrilled with that. So we wouldn't want to lose that and the work that went into preparing it, and also the fact that we bought all of these little badges as well. So I think it's nice to have that as a bit of a status. I know it's only a badge, but for learning coaches to feel they've actually got some sort of accreditation for what they've done. So we are going to keep that, and obviously it's for new learning coaches, and you'd only have to do it once. So the lower the turnover of learning coaches, the more that we don't have to worry about having to repeat that training lots of times. The Arthur Skip part of the mentor training will still stay the same as it always has done previously. So we would still expect learning coaches to come for 2 hours of new training in terms of understanding our curriculum, our systems and processes. And then that I send out a curriculum briefing once a term. We have termly online meetings that are subject specific, and that for the majority of people is next Tuesday. And obviously when we come out to visit in schools, we count that as part of the hours. We will still need to log those hours of training, so we are still keeping records of that, and that's quite important this year, definitely, because that will enable you to then claim the funding back for those hours, which I'll talk about in a minute. But going forwards, it's still important from an Ofsted point of view that we have records of the training that mentors have received, or that learning coaches have received. Does anybody have any questions or comments about about what we're going to do, because essentially it's what we used to do, but with that day one of tier one training for everybody that is new. Excellent. Okay, lovely. So on to the bit now that everybody likes, which is money. The funding for the mentor training, as you know, we mentioned it before, you can receive as a school up to £876. That's if the mentors, per mentor that is, and that's if they do the full 20 hours of training. Obviously now they're not going to be doing 20 hours of training. So to break it down for you, it works out at £43.80 per hour per trainee. That'll be paid in arrears. The claims can be submitted from May this year. The process of the application for that is something that you would do as a school. And again, because it's not happening until May, I don't really want to spend too much time on it in this meeting. I just want to give you a heads up that it's there and it's coming, and you will have to be able to make that application. One thing that I have discovered in terms of the process is that what you will need to do is make sure that you've got get information about schools, that your school contact details are on there, because you'll need to know when the invite comes for you to make the claim, it will go through that portal. So it's to make sure that you know who sort of manages that, so that then you can get them to look out for that invite. What they're also wanting to make this application is they'll need the mentors teacher reference numbers. Now, obviously, we don't have that data, that's held with you. So I suppose really I'm just giving you some months advance notice so that you can collect that data. So you'll need their TRN, and you'll also need, bizarrely, I don't know why, their date of birth. So that's so all the mentors that have worked with us last term, this term, and next term, please do start thinking about collecting that data, because we'll need that on potentially a spreadsheet, just that we can use that to submit the claim. In terms of the number of hours of training that they've completed, there's no real need for you to do anything for that. If you have been keeping logs yourself, that's great. If you haven't, don't worry, because we have. So we'll be able to confirm with you how many hours that you can claim for, and the number of mentors that you actually have sent on or has attended those training points. Are there any questions on that at all? So we will do more on it closer to Easter, when we can give you a bit more detailed guidance. Catherine.
Yeah, I just want to really emphasize that last point, because sometimes what might happen is you get your invite, you get all very excited and log on to the portal because you think you're getting money from DFE. But I would really, really urge you not to submit any claim until we've confirmed the number of training hours, because what happens is that you will submit your claim to DFE, and then DFE will verify the numbers with us in terms of how many hours of training your mentors have done. So if there's a discrepancy between both numbers, the likelihood is then that DFE will come back to you and ask for proof of that, which is going to be very difficult for you to find if it doesn't match with our records. So we will do that work for you, and we'll send you an email. We'll say, these are the mentors we've got. And obviously you can come back to us if you don't agree, but don't do anything with that DFE portal until we've got that agreement amongst ourselves. But yeah, hopefully we've got a few months left before we have to do anything here. But potentially those emails could start coming out within the next month or so.
Okay. Right. Okay, on to the next thing then. So the main part of this meeting really is to talk about intensive training and practice, and we wouldn't be surprised if the requirements for those 20 days might change at some point. We never know. Things are always shifting in ITE. There's been, again, quite a significant amount of work that's taken place in order to enable those and to make them be successful. And obviously some of that has come from the centre-based training, but a large chunk of it has actually come from the things that have actually been enacted in schools and the role that you've played in organising that. So I wanted to spend some time during this meeting just thinking about the content of them, how the logistics behind them, what your involvement has been in the process as a professional coach, and if there's more importantly, any advice for us in terms of improving that going forwards. We're already thinking about calendars for next year. So that's just something that we'll spend quite a bit of time on today. And if you look on the screen, you can see some of the things that we've actually done, or things that have happened to actually enable the measurement of the impact. One of the things that actually we need to do more on is actually talk to the learning coaches in more detail about the impact, because they're the people that are seeing the associate teachers on a more frequent basis. But we have given them surveys to reflect on the training that they've had and the organisation of what's happened in schools. We get them to do a reflection on practice to evaluate their own thoughts about what they've learnt and what they've enacted in school. They have an evidence booklet that they've uploaded. We use those Proxima digital approximations, case study scenarios and quizzes to look at their performance. And then obviously feedback from schools in terms of what you've thought about the learning coach meetings and how they've been structured, how easy it's been to go out and observe expert colleagues, spending time rehearsing with peers, and for them actually teaching specific bits of lessons or whole lessons. And then obviously colleagues that are then giving observational feedback to the associate teachers. So what I'm going to do is share with you the Developing a Positive Classroom Culture, which was the first one. Now, we talked about this quite a bit at the last meeting, but since then we have some course survey data to share with you. And you can see on the left-hand side there, those are for Arthur Terry schools, for Prince Henry's delivery, and then as an average. And with a bar chart like this, I just want to remind you that it's scored out of 4. So when you look at it, you immediately hone in on the lowest bar, which was actually when they were based in the centre and they were teaching in small groups. They were teaching a PSHE lesson. And obviously that's quite high stakes. They were being filmed, they had a lot of preparation towards it. And I think part of the stress of it, rather than it being all fun, happy training, was part of the reason for that score being slightly lower. But when we say slightly lower, it's not that low. It's still well above in the high 3 points. I can't read it off this screen at the moment, but there's some of the things that they have said in terms of feedback was that they liked the practical application of techniques. They liked the fact that this was happening in a low stakes environment in the centre before they actually went out and did it for real, if you like, in schools. They enjoyed peer support and rehearsal with peers. And they enjoyed the quality of the training that was delivered. And I think that's testament really to not only Andy and Rachel and all the other people that delivered at Prince Henry's, but also the facilitation team at Arthur Terry. We did laugh the fact that ITAP stands for Intensive Training and Practice, and they all know this, but they were quite critical of the fact that it was too intense. Not really understanding that is the nature of it. The purpose of it is to do a really intensive short burst on something, to make it become habitual before you actually go into schools and do it. Some were confused by the paperwork and the filling in lesson observations, but yeah, there was a range of comments there. And just for your information, really, the things that were a part of that ITAP were a set of practical strategies. And I've snapshotted those on the screen and the breakdown of those, which is things like the importance of using 3-2-1 to gain attention, standing still and being really clear about your instructions, meeting and greeting at the door. And these are all things that we would expect to be almost automatic now in lessons. So all I was going to ask you really just to do for this bit was just put in the chat if there's anything that you've picked up from anything that you've seen or heard, that are our associate teachers, the ones that have been trained by us as a provider, are they better at doing these kind of things compared to, firstly, previous trainees that we've had, but also maybe trainees that you've had from other providers? So I'd just be interested, just for a couple of minutes, just take time just to pop a few things in the chat. Because from our point of view, we think that was really successful as an ITAP. So I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes, just to give you a chance to just type in a couple of things. Just give you another perhaps 30 seconds. Thank you for the thumbs up as well to back up what other people have been saying. Thanks, John. That's good to know. Okay, what I think I'll do is move on. If you want to carry on, finish typing in and submit, that's fine. I'm just going to take a record of that chat and use that as part of our evaluation of the process, but really positive, and that's good to see. That's the one that we spent the least time on, really, in terms of centre school-based inputs, because there wasn't really any. Moving on to the next one, which was the explanations and modelling ITAP. And you can see there in terms of, again, the ratings from the associate teachers, it looks there that the bit that happened in school, again, was slightly lower than the other bits of the training. And I think there's a similar reason for that, in that some associate teachers found the logistics a little bit confusing. Sometimes it didn't quite mesh right with the timetable. So there was some sorts of logistic issues, I think, which might have contributed to that. But it's still, to put it in reality, it's 3.75 out of 4 across quite a large cohort. So actually, I don't see that as being particularly significant. Again, look at their feedback. They were talking about being practical, beneficial for their future teaching. The colleagues in school they did refer to as being really supportive, which is great to see. And then that real deep engagement with particular skills in the classroom. Again, not liking too much for it being too intensive, and then being confused about the paperwork came out again there. But just to show you, I did a couple of screenshots to remind you of the practicable strategies that we were trying to develop during that first ITAP that you were involved in, which is looking at effective explanations and some of the do's and don'ts, really, about cognitive load, breaking down things into small steps, anticipating misconceptions, giving examples and non-examples, a range of different things. We looked at using dual coding as one way of reducing extraneous load, and then the modelling of I do, we do, you do. So those are the things that we'd be liking you to be seeing consistently when you do go to observe them. So that's the second one. The third one was the questioning and checking for understanding one. Now, this actually was the one that seemed to be the most positive. Again, slightly lower, but it's still 3.75. But I think overall, when you look at the ITAP as a process, looking at the sort of end column there, you can see, can't you, in terms of how highly rated it is, it's 3.85. For Prince Henry's, it's up at 4, the highest it could possibly be. So I'm pleased, really, with the picture. I think if we were getting lots of 2s and 1s, then alarm bells would be going off. But really, it's just a case of refining some of the things that we've been doing. So again, you can see the feedback on the left-hand side about this direct relevance, practicing, the pros and cons of different techniques. And that's been powerful, actually, when we've talked about cold calling being effective in some ways, but it's not as effective as getting 100% participation from using mini whiteboards or using what we call show me. The importance of the pose, pause, pounce, questioning, understanding when to use open versus closed questions or different order levels in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, the value of exit tickets, and then a very basic intentional monitoring, going around hunting for misconceptions or hunting for errors. So that was the content of it, and it included some of the key points there about creating a culture of error, considering when you want a really quick snapshot of something or when you really want to go deep, so depth versus breadth. Picking the right assessment tool for the job, so whether it's something that you would use multiple choice for, or extended answers or hinge questions, we did that kind of thing. making sure that we reject self-reporting. So what we're looking for is not seeing in the classroom associate teacher saying, "Does everybody get it?" and everyone going, "Yeah," and then moving on. So that's behind that one. So considering this ITAP and the previous one, so explanations, modelling, questioning, checking for understanding, we're going to split into 3 breakout rooms. So there'll be about 4 people in each one. And what I'd like you to do is to have a real brief chat between you about whether you're seeing what I've just done with the behaviour. Are you seeing these things happening more frequently and more effectively than you had them before? Again, just based on what you've seen and what you've heard. But then I want you to spend a little bit more time talking about your involvement in the process as a professional coach. So you may have not done very much towards it at all. You may have just left it to departments to arrange, or you may have coordinated focused observations with particular people across the school. But I'd be interested in you having the opportunity to talk to each other about how involved or not involved you've been as part of that process. Does anyone have any questions about what I'm asking you to do? All right then, Brill. So I'm going to put you into, I think, 3 rooms and have time to have a chat and share your experiences and what the potential outcomes have been for the process.
Paul, just let you know, I'm going to have to shoot off now, but I'll catch up with you tomorrow after the ITAP session.
Yeah, no problem, Andy. No problem at all. I'll speak to you tomorrow. And we're going to have no more than 10 minutes really on this, just to have that discussion. It's just deciding what it wants to do. Here we go. No, I don't think there is actually. You know, ooh. John, are you there?
Hello, is there anybody there? Hello, Paul.
Hi, John. Sorry, I was just moving into another room when you came on.
No, no worries. I've been having real problems with doing video meetings. I get a blank screen every time, but and I got kicked when it tried to put me in a room.
Right. It's okay. I'll try and put you in one. Bear with me 1 second. Because you're actually in one already. It says.
Not according to this. All I've got is I've just got yourself on my screen. Says I'm in a meeting of 2 people, me and you.
Yeah, which we are.
Yeah. Well, if you call this a meeting room, then yeah, I'm in one.
Yeah. No, it says here you're in room 2, but I find Teams, I don't like Teams meets breakout rooms. I prefer it on Zoom. I don't know how to do it. Unassigned. Let's try that. Save. Right. Let's try again. MC. Right. Let's see. Let's see if this works. Here we go.
Okay.
Any luck?
It says 10 seconds.
Oh, good. Right. I'll see you in there. Okay, we're all back in the room. Right, I hope that was useful. What I'm going to ask is to nominate Debbie, if that's okay, from room 1. Can you just unmute and share some thoughts that have come up from your discussions? Debbie?
So in our discussion, something that we were talking about was the timings necessarily of the ITAPs. Like when you popped into ours, Paul, we were saying that sometimes if it's the week of an assessment week, it's sometimes a little bit harder to get the associate teachers, completing the activities that we want them to complete. So some of the timings, but we've just tried to be flexible and do like a best fit of what would happen.
Yeah, we did come up with quite a bit of a list of things that could get in the way of it running smoothly, but also that to appreciate that those things are going to happen. That's just a matter of course. I mean, I've written down the need for flexibility, but also that everybody involved needs to be aware that it's okay to be flexible. And I think maybe that's partly on our fault really for stressing the importance of this. Now you had to stick to the plan, and then they came into schools and went, "Oh, I've got to do it exactly like this." But I think we got better at that as the time went on. Okay, anything else from your group, Debbie?
I think that was the main thing, and I think we did talk about, like you said, about getting everything fitted in, but sometimes we might have had to have done a meeting after school because it just didn't fit in the day. So we've just tried to say you got done what you needed to, as much as you could, and then we'll just work around it and get it to fit with what's happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. And the bit when I dropped into your room actually was the bit where you said they are working, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. I definitely think the trainees, and I said when you'd gone that we'd got PGC trainees from other providers, and I think ours are definitely far better prepared, and they're definitely working, but sometimes at the moment it's a bit of a I need to do and I do, we do, you do, so I'm going to put that in my lesson, when then it might not actually be ideal, but at least they're trying to embed some of the information they're being given.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's come up in other rooms and discussions as well about, yes, they've got practicable strategies, but they just see them as a toolkit that they just use as a scattergun really, and they don't think about so much. And I mean, they're only trainees to be fair,
yeah,
but they're not thinking
early
about
days.
one exactly, and they're not thinking about why they're doing an I do, we do, you do. They're just doing it because they've been told to, that it's a thing. So yeah, the more evaluative I think they can become as we go on, the better. Thank you for that. Hannah, can you do room 2 for us?
Yeah, we again sort of similar conversations. We talked about kind of our role within this, and how that kind of in some places needed to be varied, and it often depended on the trainee. But also we talked about kind of this was particularly one for me about when they were kind of doing the intensive practice, they latched onto something that worked, so we did that all the time, and it's almost like you get the model, this works, it will. And we talked about our role about being just gently moving them out of that comfort zone. So we did have a conversation about endless exit tickets, and it's like, yeah, that's a great strategy, but not every single time. And our role being about beginning to kind of move them gently out of their comfort zone, to try a variety of things. So again, it's quite a similar theme.
Yeah, we were I think that's really important. And again, your role I suppose is being more about getting to really evaluate why they're doing what they're doing, needs to come through in their lesson observation feedback. And you'll have an overview of that, won't you, from going to visit lots of them when they're on placement with you. Okay, lovely. Room 3, Sophie, were you in room 3?
Hi, yeah, I was.
Oh yeah.
So we sort of echoed some of those comments, and the word we used was like formulaic. We found that it was very formulaic after they'd done it, and they were doing it because that's what it was, and so it echoes quite a lot of the other conversations. One of our other conversations was around the impact on the learning mentors, and how it was very difficult for the learning mentors to be able to manage what was going on and to be able to support them with all the different elements of what was happening. And a unique thing that we have got going on here as well, and whether or not this can be coordinated across the Midlands partnership things, is that everybody's ITAPs are happening in different weeks. And at different times, and that made it quite difficult for everybody to manage that. And it also meant that there was some people and doing slightly different things and different themes and everything, and that meant that some of our learning mentors were, whilst some were able to speak about it and share experiences and work together, others were not, because of the different timings and the different ways that things were done. So that was something else that we had a conversation about as well, and the impact on those learning mentors throughout that.
Yeah, really, and that's because of having trainees from different providers.
Well, we offer subjects that I mean, I've spoken to you about this before, Paul. We've got subjects that you don't at the moment have students for, so which is fine. I mean, we just need to we just want to offer what we can.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate the challenge of that. And as a professional coach, obviously, you've got oversight of all of those, then it must, if you were really heavily involved in the organisation of it, it would be a nightmare, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Catherine, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back on some of those things, because they're points that I've heard in a number of meetings that I've been in with other providers across the West Midlands as well, particularly from schools such as yours who work with multiple providers. We are doing a mapping exercise across the region, so that we've got a map of when providers are doing the different ITAPs. I mean, that'll give you the information. It won't solve the problem, obviously, but it's been fed back through various groups that I'm part of, and I know others as well, to the DFE, and we are hopeful as a sector that the number of ITAP days are actually going to be reduced for next year. This is the rumblings that I'm getting, which would be really helpful, I think, because I think the ITAPs, whereas they are very good and very helpful, and we're clearly seeing an impact on trainees' practice, they are just a bit of a nightmare, aren't they, to organise within schools, particularly when schools such as yours are working with multiple providers. So yeah, it's very, very useful to keep hearing this sort of feedback, because not only is it useful for us as a school, but we do feed it back to other groups that we're part of too. So thank you for that.
I really appreciate that as well, actually. So thank you for taking that voice forwards, because it would make things a lot easier when you are working across multiple providers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's actually made it useful for us to see the bigger picture as well, as to which ones they're choosing, how long they are, when they are, as an overview, so we can get an idea about if we are modifying our course design. I mean, having behaviour, the basics of behaviour early on seems to be a sort of common theme. There are certain things that do emerge. So there might be an opportunity for some alignment and timings, but like I say, it will depend on what happens with the number of days requirement. Other things I've got written down from some of the conversations that I've dropped in on is about preferring to do the taught lessons with classes that they are actually teaching rather than classes that they aren't, specifying what lessons that they are going to be required to deliver to in advance, so that they can factor that in when they're designing timetables, was something that came up. We talked about peer observations, and not for like several of them to bundle in to observe one of their peers. That only maybe one person should observe. If they're going to do peer observation, it's just one person observing another. And yeah, the endless exit tickets I thought was really interesting, about the continual. Once you've nailed something, all you want to do is just do that continually. So yeah, really powerful, actually, really interesting discussion. So thank you for taking the time to be really honest and open about that. We'll certainly work on making some improvements based on what requirements we have to fulfill next year. Moving forward, there's two more coming up. This one that's coming up is more flexible, the strategic use of assessment one. There's been a day, there's a day tomorrow, centre-based training, and then there's a subject-based day next week. And the week after, there's 2 days of activities taking place in school. I'll show you the example timetable for that in a second. We're also developing one final one to go out in a blaze of glory just after Easter, where they're going to look at intentional scaffolding, where they'll be teaching classes that they've taught. See you later, Catherine. They've been teaching classes that they've taught in their previous placement before Christmas, and they pick, because they know them really well, they can have that data, they can look at their progress over time, and then they can be really strategic about what type of scaffolding they implement with different students. So we're just developing that at the moment. We were going to do it last year, but we decided to cancel it because it was quite complicated. So we're just working on a plan for that. So this strategic use of assessment, ITAP, if we think about what it is what it says it is, which is being strategic about the use of assessment, the types of assessment that you're doing, and how you follow intentional monitoring with a clear strategy. So it's made of 5 elements, basically, which is lesson preparation in advance, choosing a monitoring pathway with specific students that you want to check in on, and that's something that should rotate over time. So you will obviously have your pillars, your sort of specific students that you want to check in more frequently with, so your disadvantaged or particular SEN needs and things like that, your potentially high prioritainers, but that you don't forget the what we call the Tiffany's from the Tiffany test. For those of you that may not know about it, it's the unknown, the people in the class who just sit quietly and get on to things and go under the radar and never really have much meaningful interaction with the teacher. So we're introducing those 5 parts tomorrow. We're all at the Royal Sutton School and Prince Henry's cohort at Prince Henry's High School tomorrow. The following week, they'll get practice on it from a subject-specific point of view, and we'll go in and do some observations in subjects. But then the bit that you'll be interested in really more is the 2 days in school that follow this. So part of the activities for the day, and first of all, these can take place on any day in that week that suits best. The activities within each day can take place in any order that is suitable, that fits in with their timetable, although you can see at the bottom there, activity 2 has to be after activity 1, because you can't have a pre-lesson dialogue until you've actually planned the lesson. So there are certain things that have to go in a certain order, but in terms of and obviously you can't teach the lesson until you've planned it and so on. But the other parts of it can move around. Obviously I'll send this PowerPoint out to you so you've got it for reference. So that's the first day in school, if you like. The second day in school, again, is enacting the practicable strategies and reflecting. It involves teaching post-lesson dialogue, observing expert practitioners. There's some academic reading to do, videos to watch, things like that, and a reflection on practice, like I've said. So any questions on that at the moment? It's not very different to what we did last year, actually. So if you worked with us last year, you won't notice massive difference. And again, you might be involved in the process, but you might not as a professional coach. John, you got a question?
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Right.
Sorry, I couldn't be here at the start. Are you sending the PowerPoint out to us?
Yes, yeah. I will. Yes.
Thank you.
I will also put the recording into a YouTube video and then put that online for you. And the minutes as well will come out with this. Okay, on to something different now, which is recruitment, because we've only got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to go a bit quick. Recruitment's progressing reasonably well. We're actually at the same level that we were last year in terms of recruitment. Prince Henry's is slightly lower to where we were last year, but actually we've got 3 interviews in progress happening over there that are in process at the moment. But yeah, we're doing okay, but we're finding a lot more applicants are being really fussy and saying, "Oh, I can't come on that day because I've got to work," or and we only have a certain amount of capacity as to when we can organise interviews. And then we're having the usual issue of people withdrawing before we've even had a chance to see them. But we've been more proactive about phoning them up and actually speaking to them in person as soon as an application comes in, just to make that human connection. It's hard to tell whether that's having a significant impact at the moment, but it is something that we're trying to do more strategically. We've also appointed a subject pedagogy lead for design and technology, because we're now running design and technology under the banner of the SCIT from next September, or from this September. and we have already recruited 2, which is really pleasing. And obviously, you'll be aware of the challenges of recruiting for design and technology for ECTs and qualified, just to fill teaching posts for design and technology is really difficult. So we're hoping that that will be an extra way to sort of provide you with an employment stream in another shortage area, and quite a significant bursary attached to DT. But I know it's only January. September seems like a long time away, and I know that staffing is very fluidic. But I think I just wanted to put it in your head now that these are the subjects that we're offering. We're intending to recruit well in all of them. We obviously don't know how we're going to recruit, but this is the picture at this current point. The other thing to mention is that if you have got any unqualified teachers working in your schools, the DfE want to move to the position where you're not allowed to have any unqualified teachers in your school. So we've had quite a shift in expressions of interest in completing the assessment only route. I'm not going to talk in detail about that now, but if you do have anybody that sort of fits into, please do get in touch with us about how that process would work, because we're anticipating having to do more of those in the future. Bob, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, sorry, just I lost my message. Hopefully Hannah's going to be very kind and help me out with this. But we got a current design technology looking for replacements from February to June. We've asked some people, but if you think that you could help with that, if Hannah can't help, then can you let me know?
Lovely, thank you. Yeah, and again, that's the one thing that concerned us when we were considering setting up a DT route. Obviously, we've got to have places to put them. So I would urge you, if you haven't already got capacity in DT, or to be thinking about being really honest with us about, whether you can or you can't, and if it would be no chance of ever doing it, or if, yeah, we have, but we've never offered before, that would be really useful, because we've obviously got to put them somewhere. Hannah?
Yeah, just to say, Bob, I'll chase it tomorrow and I'll get you an answer.
Lovely.
All
Thank
right.
you, Hannah.
Thanks ever so much, Hannah. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Just a couple of quick bits. We'll finish on a high. The first thing is that obviously professional coaches run PES plus training sessions for all the associate teachers that you have on placement at this point. Our expectation, we reduced this quite significantly, and some of you still do quite a lot of work with the associate teachers, which is absolutely fine. But as a bare minimum, really, this term, could we have make sure that you've provided some whole school inputs, either for myself or someone else suitable, and you've probably already done this actually, about safeguarding procedures, pastoral structure, pastoral systems, behaviour policies, and then SEN. And ideally, that the SENCO has a chance to speak to the whole cohort and talk about the provision that takes place in your school. That's really important, if you can make that work. Finally, course survey. We obviously surveyed the associate teachers about the ITAP, so we've talked about that. But what we haven't talked about is how they've rated the school experiences they've had with you overall. It won't be a surprise to you to know that it's incredibly high and incredibly positive, which it always is. And I've just put it on the screen there so you can see the breakdown. Again, it's rated out of 4. And you can see 72% pretty much have rated it 4 out of 4. And that's across all the schools that Prince Henry's and South Worcestershire ITT work with, and all the schools that Arthur Terry work with as well. And you can see what a testament it is really to the schools, the staffing in the schools, you as professional coaches, but even, all the other people as well, the support staff, the SENCOs, the graphics technicians, all of those people are contributing to this really positive experience. So what I will do is we've got an individual breakdown of feedback directly to schools. We're really focusing on that this year and making sure that we get that information back to you. So I will make sure that I do that in the next week or so. So that's that. Last thing, Bob, you've got 1 minute.
Yeah, but very quickly, I'm just going to say, obviously, doing the surveys, they aren't actually asked to put positive things, only negative things. So the fact that they've gone out of the way to put such positive things about our schools is a real testament to the learning coaches and professional coaches. It's absolutely fantastic to read.
Wonderful. It is, absolutely. Thank you for that. And I should mention credits for producing all these surveys and the analysis of these is not my, well, it is my job, but Bob does it for me. He's so much better at it. And the final thing is any other business. And you'll see there's nothing on this slide. There's nothing from me. Any other business from anybody else? I'm going to count to 10. Wonderful. Okay. Actually, it's not 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock on my laptop. It's actually 5:02 in real life. So we have actually finished slightly earlier. I'm just, because I didn't put it on the PowerPoint, I'm just going to make sure that you've got the date of the last QA meeting of the year, which seems a bizarre thing to be talking about in January. But actually, it is on Thursday, the 8th of May. So if you could just make sure that's in your diary, and we'll be in the middle of that intentional scaffolding. Well, we'll be on day 3 of 4 when we have that meeting. Okay, and if there's anything else that anybody wants to raise as an agenda item for that meeting, please drop me an email, whether that be about capacity in subject training, you wanting to come and deliver some PES sessions, anything at all that you'd like to talk a bit more about, and then we're happy to do that. But other than that, I hope it's dark, unfortunately, still, but when we meet next at this time, it won't be dark. So I hope you have a lovely few weeks, and I'm sure I'll come across you when I come out to visit. So thanks for coming along tonight, and sign off when you're ready.
Paul, you haven't been sending me a link for the meetings.
Okay, right, no problem.
I just don't think I'm on your list, but Hazel's just been sending it over to me.
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to think about where the list is, because I mean,
it doesn't matter because Hazel will just send it over for the next one anyway.
I'll tell you what, Debbie, while you're here, I'll do it now, because I'll tell you where it is. I've got a list of learning coaches and a list of professional coaches, because I don't invite the subject pedagogy leads to this.
No.
So I'm going to put you on the spreadsheet in a second,
Okay,
and put your role next to it, and I'll make sure then that you get the invite. Right. So what should I put you down as?
so I am a professional with Hazel. We just share the role.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. You know, I don't think I knew that. I knew you were involved in Skip, but I didn't actually know that that was what you were doing.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Right. Okay, cool. You're on the list now then.
Okay, so you don't need my email address?
No, I've got your email address.
Okay, all right, that's brilliant. Okay, thanks, Paul.
Right. No worries. See you soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
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 Bye. Oh. Oh.